America's worst nightmare, or the egos. They called him America's worst nightmare. The prosecutors, the jurors, the families, the news anchors, every voice lined up to stamp Brian Nichols with the label monster. 11 life sentences, 4 without parole, plus 385 years. That's what the judge handed down. And the crowd nodded in approval. Because once you've condemned the monster, you can go back to your condo, sip your wine, and sleep easy. He's the sinner. You're the saint. But this whole thing, the courthouse, the sentences, the outrage, is the ego's scapegoat machine. It takes the guilt you can't bear to look at in yourself and hurls it onto someone else. And the harsher the punishment, the safer you feel. The problem is, guilt never leaves by projection. It only multiplies. The sentence that cannot give life. Think about it. 11 life sentences. 385 years. It's absurd. The ego doesn't give life, but it pretends to give life sentences. That's arrogance at its peak. Like a child scribbling red crayon all over a coloring book. It doesn't restore a thing. The families still don't have their loved ones back. The city is still traumatized. And yet people convince themselves justice has been done because the monster has been chained. But if justice means peace, no one has it. What they wanted wasn't years in a ledger. What they wanted was healing. What they wanted was love. And love doesn't come through sentencing. The gladiator idol. Now here's the irony. Long before that day in the courthouse, Brian Nichols was trained in the Roman games. Football was his way out of the Baltimore streets. He played from 9 years old all the way through college. Linebacker, helmet to helmet, all-out assault. Back then, what gets you ejected today was celebrated. Coaches cheered when you hit a man so hard he couldn't stand up. And what's the fruit? CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Out of 246 brains studied, 211 showed the disease. Rage, depression, suicide, murder. It's the boomerang of the idol you worship. You cheered the hits on Sunday, then turned your face away when the gladiators snapped on Monday. You idolized violence as entertainment, then crucified the broken players who carried it in their bodies. The Roman Colosseum never closed. It just got corporate sponsors and HD cameras. The crack in the dream. Here's what the documentary showed and what almost no one talks about. In the middle of his flight, after 4 people were dead, Brian forced his way into Ashley Smith's apartment. She offered him food. He asked for weed. She gave him meth instead. And the strangest thing happened. He expected to get more wired, more desperate. Instead, it calmed him. For the first time in 26 hours, his mind slowed down. And in that stillness, he heard another voice. God told me to trust him, so I trusted him. That's when the miracle slipped through. He could have killed her. He didn't. He could have refused her request to leave. Instead, he handed her the keys. Giving and receiving are one. He gave her freedom. She gave him trust. They prayed together the next morning. She cooked him breakfast. And then he surrendered without incident. This is what the world refuses to see. Even in the nightmare, there was a decision for peace. And that one decision undid more violence than all the life sentences in the world ever could. The holy flip. A Course in Miracles says, you are never upset for the reason you think. The families aren't upset because of Brian Nichols. They're upset because they've staked their peace on a dream of bodies. What they want isn't really revenge, it's the impossible. They want their loved ones restored. They want the nightmare to be undone. But the nightmare can't be solved at the level of form. No verdict, no execution, no prison term can turn back time. The ego whispers, hate will heal you. But hate never heals. It doubles the pain. The truth is simpler. What you want is peace, and peace doesn't come from hate. It comes from forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't mean the dream events didn't play out on the screen. It means the screen itself isn't real. The howl wasn't a wolf, it was the wind. The snake wasn't a snake, it was a rope. Maybe what you think happened never did. Maybe it's all just a dream. America's nightmare or the ego's. So which is it? Was Brian Nichols America's worst nightmare? Or was he just a mirror held up to America's real nightmare? The worship of violence, the addiction to guilt, the belief that vengeance heals. He was called a monster. But what's more monstrous? One man's breakdown, or a system that trains gladiators for collision, cheers their hits, denies their wounds, then scapegoats them when they snap. What's more insane? One courthouse rampage, or a culture that glorifies violence in stadiums and punishes it in courtrooms? The documentary let us hear his voice, not see his face. That's the invitation. Stop looking at bodies. Start listening to content. Beneath the nightmare script, the voice of spirit still says, "You can choose again." Picture a man labeled a monster. 11 life sentences, 4 without parole, and 385 years stacked on top for good measure. Picture a city breathing easier because its nightmare has been caged. Yet the bodies remain gone, and the peace never comes. For the real nightmare is not one man's crimes. It is the belief that guilt can be banished by projection, that hate can heal what only love restores. One hostage prayed, one fugitive surrendered, and for a moment the laws of God eclipsed the laws of men. America's nightmare, yes, but perhaps not Brian Nichols at all. Perhaps the nightmare belongs to the ego, and the only escape lies not in a courthouse, but in the twilight zone.